First, let's begin this evening by queering up students and youth culture. Bill Maher criticizes drag queens, standing by Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Don't anticipate seeing Bill Maher as a guest on RuPaul's Drag Race anytime soon. Following his Friday night new rules, it's safe to assume he would be swiftly dismissed with a sashay away. The controversial talk show host defended Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and drew parallels between Drag Queen Story Hour and the protection of children. In this week's episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the 68-year-old targeted Nickelodeon and Disney, citing the explosive Quiet on Set documentary for failing to safeguard its young stars. Maher argued that it was the responsibility of every adult to protect them, and Governor DeSantis' actions to address creepy stuff at Disney were not entirely unfounded. Maher delivered into the controversy surrounding Drag Queen Story Hour and whether it's suitable for children. He boldly asserted that it's time to acknowledge that these events are for the drag queens rather than the educational benefit of the children. He asked, quote, "Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have tits?" End quote. He then went on to slam wokeness, saying it is not an extension of liberalism anymore. In his words, quote, "Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different, great. Proud we got there, all for that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion," end quote. Maher has been an avid supporter of LGBTQ plus civil rights, but has also been an active critic of how far we take wokeness. You know, I saw Bill Maher's rant, and that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a rant. He was delusional for about 8 minutes there. I don't understand why we were listening to a white cisgendered man who has not been married and has no children to tell me about how to take care about children, right? You know, I did see on the set, right? What that's
Quiet on Set.
Quiet on the Set. I did see it, and honestly, you know, the creepy predators that were lurking were all also white cisgendered older men that were doing this. Okay. You know, Bill, I don't understand how you could even confuse or even put in the same category clowns with drag queens, okay? And then that's a whole other set of crap to talk about, because for this person, I'm deathly afraid of clowns and I run towards drag queens. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a lot to unpack here. What are you thinking, Ms. Bonnie?
Okay, so to anybody at this table who aligns their views with Bill Maher, let me just remind you who this creature is. He's the white dude that regularly says the N-word, casually. He's also the dude that has defended Woody Allen. So this is where he aligns himself with. He is not as liberal as he thinks he is. He is more of like the cool conservative, which is something that he's trying to not really align himself with that title, but that's basically what he is. He's like, I'm conservative, but like I'm like cool. I'm like the cool uncle with it. So I think it is absolutely disgusting to align predators from this documentary that were proven predators with drag queens who want to be a part of their community. Again, we are dealing with an issue of people dehumanizing drag queens as if we are not people that want to participate in our community. If my drag allows me to read to children, I would never want to, not a big fan of kids, but if my drag allows me to do that, why can't I read to the children? What's wrong with tits? Are you saying drag queen with tits is different than a woman with tits reading to children? Like what's the problem?
Women can't be clowns.
Right. Women can't wear wigs and extra lipstick and read to the children. Like where do you draw the line with drag queens? Sir?
I would also like to see one case where a true drag queen, a performer, was arrested for being inappropriate with a child.
Has there been a case?
I don't know.
Yes, but not in the context of the drag story hour. It's when they failed to do background checks. And
okay, well that's different. But you know, I mean, legitimate performers are performers.
Yeah. And again, most drag queens, like Bonnie, don't want to be anywhere near kids. And have no problem not ever reading one story time hour.
What would he say about Mrs. Doubtfire? I would love to know his response.
Well, Maher has now officially completed his transition to grumpy old white conservative. And in the same way that Geraldo Rivera went from liberal hippie journalist, remember this, Cindy? Early in his career, to a kookier conservative later, Maher is following in his footsteps. And I think Maher continues to lose his credibility as he does this.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And now we're ready for Trini's version of. Let's see what Trini says. Trini. So folks at home, in the past, Trini has said that drag queens, that there's no space for a place with kids and drag queens to be a part of that. So
Wait, you're saying I said that?
You said something to that effect?
No.
Okay, go.
Okay. So yeah. So back to the topic though of Bill Maher. So Bill Maher was more of a liberal, and then he has been transitioning into kind of what Bonnie was saying, more of like the cool conservative, right? I think, I don't know why he was even putting Ron DeSantis into this conversation, or like doing these little
Disney, Trini.
Right, but that's not even what Ron DeSantis' issue was with Disney, the corporation, because of the whole thing with Florida. It had nothing to do with protecting children or anything like that. So I think the larger point that he's been making for the past 4 or 5 years is that when you get to what we call the liberal group, maybe the far left group, when they've come up with how many genders, how many this, whatever, all these different labels, what his point has been for years is that you can believe what you want, but don't try to force it on other people. And for that, I agree with him. I think everybody is entitled to kind of have their own idea of what sexuality is. And the moment you start demonizing, and I think our community, especially what I call the elite gay community, which is everybody here, the people who are most
the A-list, baby.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner, because you're the people who are doing the most in helping the community. You're organizing the pride events, you're at the drag shows, you're supporting everything, but you all have a unique reality that the majority of gay America does not have. And you reported last week that and I don't know if the study is how accurate it is, but you reported that 22% of gay Americans had a favorable view of Trump and the Democrat and the Republican Party.
It wasn't Americans. It was under a study. Yeah.
Right. So that's 22% that are kind of in this far right area. Where do you think the rest of of gay America is? So my point is that the people who are doing the most, bravo. But when we start demonizing everybody and saying you have to believe this and you have to believe in all of this, especially in the absence of all the clinical studies, like, we need to be a little bit kinder and a little bit more understanding to people who don't have the same viewpoint as we do.
And you don't think that he was demonizing drag queens?
I don't.
In the same breath?
I think that he took it a little bit too far, because he gets a lot of hate from our community now, saying that Bill Maher is a liberal guy. He does not care who people sleep with. He does not care about drag queens or anything like that. He just doesn't like the idea that everybody gets into his face about what you're supposed to believe.
Trini, in the context of the story, he equated us to those who were master manipulators and sex offenders in the documentary Quiet on Set, and that is wholly offensive.
I understand.
Find me a drag queen who has done what these freaks and creeps have done, and I will say I see your point of view. At this point, I do not see your point of view. I do not see Bill Maher's point of view. He is being very dangerous with his platform, with the words that he is using. He's had it for a very long time. He should know better. Bill, you should know better than to say some stupid ass fucking shit.
And
like
I agree with that. If you watch the whole interview with him, he does show a clip, which I do not believe is the totally accurate, but he shows that some kids were at a drag show who are actually tipping. And so when it comes to those kinds of things, with it says this isn't going to lick itself, or this pussy isn't going to, I don't know if I can say that. We'll lick itself. Whatever. Like, those things I agree with, and that's what he's looking at, which is what the conservative talking points are. But I don't think that he actually has a problem with a normal drag queen story hour.
Okay. And the video that he showed was a kid with his parent at a drag queen story hour. It wasn't like the kid just decided to randomly be at a drag
Of course,
it wasn't a drag queen who took a child into their home and then inappropriately touched them like the people who in that documentary did.
And I agree, it
drag
shouldn't
queen
have
at
been
work.
conflated. But I'm just saying that's what I think his point it was.
Good point.